This is not a very Merry Christmas. I just want to be clear about this. I thought I was going to get to, sing Christmas carols today and enjoy some dinner. I didn't think that there was going to be anything today. Like, you know what? I'm very upset that this is happening in the midst of holidays and on vacation, but such is what it is. But if you guys have not seen, Shams Charania decided to put a lump of coal in the Miami Heat stocking today as he came out in within the hour and dropped a story that is titled "Six-Time NBA All-Star Jimmy Butler Prefers Trade Out of Miami Ahead of the February 6th Deadline," league sources told ESPN. And it's look, it's said in every report that's out. That's now because there's some local things that have been reported by Ira and Anthony and Barry, and so we'll get to that stuff as well. But this isn't good. It's not like my reaction to all this stuff coming out is not fantastic. I really did think that this was going to end being a little bit more cordial, and I don't know what has changed over the last couple of weeks since the original Shams reports were coming out about trade destinations and why it getting into the national landscape. Yeah, I definitely thought there was some boredom to it, to the NBA media, of like, oh, there's no juice. This doesn't really seem like anything new. This is all things that we've talked about. And I do feel like, just from the outside looking in, Jimmy's temperature around the team has been fine. But then the OKC game happened. And it's tough not to ignore the idea that everybody who was in attendance and saw that, and again, I don't like doing this because I never want to question anybody's toughness, health, or any of that stuff. I don't like doing that stuff. But we can't act like it's never happened in the NBA before, or, like Anthony Davis, James Harden. We can't act like it's not a thing. And Jimmy Butler, during that game, turned his ankle, and then minutes later, we're getting a report that it's a stomach illness. It's like, okay, that sucks. They have a game the next night. All right, couldn't make it to that game. Fine. Then he's questionable for the next game. And then right before the game, nope, not able to play. So if you don't think there's something a little fishy to that, I don't know, guys. When he didn't play in the last game, and obviously it was a game with a lot of things around it, especially the devastating Drew Smith injury and all that. And we do, gotta save some other time to talk about, the official news on that and what they're doing with the roster spot. But this is the story of the day. And we'll see, what comes of this. I'm doing this like in the hour within it breaking and all that type of stuff. But if you don't think that there's something a little bit fishy about that Jimmy Butler all of a sudden needs basically 3 games off for an illness, and so I do tend to wonder if Jimmy Butler and his agent, with all of this, everything seemed very cordial, right? Everything seemed kind of cool. So 2 things have either happened here. Either Jimmy's agent acted like the greatest wrestling heel of all time, and this has all been a play, and this has all been a ruse, and then you had the changing of the hair, trolling, and all that type of stuff, just to have a little fun, baby. And let's just say in the midst of all that, let's just say that this was just a play to see if the Heat would warm up to giving him his extension. All the talk has been, hey, we're going to opt out no matter what. We're not going to go back to the well. But what if they did? What if they did just want to go back to the well and be like, hey, would you guys extend us? And the Heat still balked at it. And they're like, nah. And then all of a sudden it was like, all right, game on. Unless, this is all just kind of in a slow play to get to this point. I don't know. Maybe, Jimmy also just feels like the Heat just have no chance. And he wants to, because it's always said, oh, I want to go to a win now situation. I don't know. But this is, I was reading, Barry Jackson, and I want to get to some of their details because they got some good stuff here. Barry Jackson's firing out a bunch of tweets, and I'll get to him and Anthony's report here in just a second because there is some interesting stuff. But it says, Butler could force Heat's hand if he becomes highly disruptive, and he hasn't. And I'd say, I guess you can't call it highly disruptive, but I would say, sitting out of games, because you're ill, that can be kind of disruptive. I think that's kind of disruptive, if anything. All right, but so let's get to what the thing is here. All right, it says Jimmy Butler prefers to be traded out of Miami. This is from Shams ahead of the trade deadline. ESPN reported on Inside Pass that the Heat are willing to listen to offers, that Butler wants a win-now contender in any deal, but he's not formally requested a trade, but is believed to be ready for his exit. Look, guys, he has not formally requested a trade. You can't, I guess, formally request a trade. You can get fined for that, especially publicly. We saw this all with the Damian Lillard stuff last year and his agent and all that stuff. But, I think that pretty much puts it into the place that he wants out. He wants out. I don't think he wants to be here anymore. I think it was put well by Tim Reynolds, who goes, there's no turning back. There's no turning back at this point. He tweeted, there won't be any turning back now. That kind of feels like where it's at, right? It does feel like it's at a crescendo right now. This does feel like a big deal. But anyway, some of the details from Jimmy Butler, and this is from Anthony and Barry from the Miami Herald. Heat forward Jimmy Butler, whose relationship with the team has become somewhat strained, now prefers to be traded, ESPN reported on Wednesday. Sources involved with Butler and the Heat both said he has not formally requested a trade, but nobody has denied that he is unhappy. His agent, Bernie Lee, declined to comment on this report. Sources who have spoken to multiple teams told the Miami Herald that Butler is considered available for a trade on the trade market. He was non-committal when asked earlier this month if he wants to remain with the Heat. That's true. The whole who knows. There's others that suggest that a deal is imminent and no indication that the Heat will cave to his preferences. Wednesday's report follows an odd week in which Butler left a game in OKC where he appeared to sprain his ankle, didn't return, didn't play in the following 2 games, and the Heat identified it on the injury report a stomach illness. It's unclear whether he'll be traveling with the Heat Thursday for Orlando's games. That to me was by far the weirdest out of all. I was like, again, I don't like doing that. I don't like questioning people on health stuff, but it's tough not to look at that and be like, that is odd. That is odd. Yeah. That is odd. Then there was a report, by the way, earlier in the week. It was reported earlier in the week, and I don't know if maybe this also to get back into the ether and revamp it, because there was a report from Bobby Marks that said like people around the league think that he's not going to be dealt before the trade deadline, and now Shams is telling you, well, his preference is to be dealt before the trade deadline. So again, it's not a trade demand, but it's a trade demand without it being a trade demand. I don't think it's nothing. I don't know if that means for sure the Heat are going to trade him. Because I don't think the Heat, I don't think the Heat are going to be strong-armed into the Bradley Beal deal. I think they could probably just let everybody know, like, hey, we're not taking on more money. So, does the Golden State thing happen? Possibly. More from the Herald. Among the teams reportedly appealing to Butler, Houston has told people it has no interest in pursuing a trade for him, according to one of those people, while Dallas and Phoenix appear to lack the assets. There would be salary cap complications in any deal with the Suns and Mavericks. Golden State, which reportedly also appeals to Butler, could emerge as a potential trade partner, as the Warriors would like to add an all-star. We know that. This is, so then there's they got some things on the specifics of it. Also, the Herald reads, according to multiple sources, Butler has been disappointed with the Heat, primarily because the Heat declined to give him a 2-year, $113 million extension this past summer, a deal that would have run through 26-27. Butler was open to signing a deal early in the negotiation window, but his mindset changed when he wasn't immediately offered. We knew all that. My stance on that has always been, I thought that the Heat should have extended Jimmy Butler. They also write after the Heat did not agree to an extension last June, Butler decided to play out the season and exercise his player option to become a free agent next July. That remains his intention, sources say. They also write, and this is some juice. It said, beyond the contract, the other issues that have also led to Jimmy Butler's increasing ambivalence towards remaining in Miami. That's a big word for me, dog. Ambivalence. A state of having mixed feelings or contradictory ideas. All right. Writers, you guys are good. A source said that Butler was caught off guard when Riley, during May's news conference, scolded him for saying that Boston would be home. We all know that. Okay, so it says a source was... Okay, let me read this. 3, 2, 1. A couple other interesting things. All right, so they also say there's some other stuff that gave Butler some mixed feelings or not pleased feelings with the Miami Heat. He apparently was caught off guard by Pat Riley telling him, to keep his mouth shut. I wonder who got that brought up by Pat Riley. That guy's a real jerk, whoever brought up that subject.
Pat, this weekend, Jimmy Butler had said, if he was healthy, that Boston would have gone home. I know it's tough to live in hypotheticals, but if he was able to play and Terry was able to play, did you feel like the gulf has gotten way too big with you in Boston, or if you had your guys, that it might have been more competitive?
We played, I've been involved in competition in the playoffs against certain opponents that turned into hate, even since we've been here, I hate to use that word, but the competition gets so tough that you don't like one another. And so we played Boston 4 times, I think, in the playoffs since Jimmy's been here. So, you do develop some dislike for the other team, but they are, this year, I think, the best team in the league, with the best roster in the league. They made some great moves. Brad Stevens did a great job in getting Holiday and Porzingis. They built their bench a little bit differently. And, for him to say that, I thought, is that Jimmy trolling or is that Jimmy serious? If you're not on the court playing against Boston or on the court playing against the New York Knicks, you should keep your mouth shut in your criticism of those teams.
Whoops. This is interesting. According to a source, this is from the Miami Herald. According to a source, Butler was disappointed that the Heat did not publicly deny a December 10th ESPN report that Miami was open to trading him. That's weird. But remember when he did deny that, or when he didn't deny it, when he wore the orange hair, right? And he was trolling. At least somebody sticking up for me is how he answered that when he was talking about his agent, Bernie, and telling Shams to go bleep himself. So that was kind of an interesting, that's almost like an interesting, it's almost like it was an interesting sick relationship test that he put out there. Like, let's see how much they do love me. And for them to say that Butler was disappointed that the Heat did not publicly deny the report that Miami was open to trading him. A little bit weird, but it does make sense now why he said this.
Jimmy, it was an interesting last couple of days. Your agent responded on social media to reports pretty vociferously. One, what did you read into those reports, and what's it like watching your agent go back and forth with the worldwide leader?
I love it. I love it. I am all for the back and forth. Before he's my agent, that's like I guess we're like brothers now. We do everything together. But I feel for him, and at least somebody's sticking up for me.
And then finally, it said that Butler also skipped the Heat's annual Christmas party at Pat Riley's home, but a source cautioned not to read anything into that because he has missed the party several times previously. They added that Butler has not been disruptive this season, but the trade noise continues to get louder. So a lot of great stuff from Barry and Anthony. But it is a little interesting, right? Like, what has changed with this stuff? And you're wondering, like I've said, when the reports first came out, my thoughts on it were, I think this is going to be okay because I think that the vibes have been pretty good around the team. The team was playing well. They were playing good basketball. Then they went on to a little bit of a losing streak that coincided with Jimmy Butler getting sick. And for him to now be in the spot where he was upset that the team didn't deny trading him, didn't deny being open. Look, man, been said, Jimmy's a moody guy. Jimmy can kind of change with the wind. And as it was early in the summer, oh, you don't want to give me the extension? Cool, I'll opt out. But my theory is, it's not reported, but my theory is it kind of felt like, let's give one last olive branch to the Heat. Let's give them one last window to see, would they lock us up? And if the Heat balked at that, not only balked at it, but yeah, kind of let everybody know, maybe we deal him. Now all of a sudden, he's too sick to play in games. So do with that what you will, man. But I don't know how much you can put into the whole Jimmy hasn't formally requested a trade. This is Jimmy formally requesting a trade. And whatever do-si-do they've been doing with Shams about either using him and denying him and whatever, he's still the biggest reporter out there. And he's not a guy who's lacked credibility. And, I still don't think that the Suns thing makes any sense in the world. I still think that was a weird one to throw out there. However, I don't think this is going anywhere. I agree where it said there's no turning back now. Like this is what it is right now, and this is going to be something that if he's not playing tomorrow, which is going to be an interesting one, if he's not on it, then yeah, game is absolutely on with this. But man, yeah, this ruins my Christmas. I guess I shouldn't be surprised by it. Like, did we think that this was going to end? But hey, this is why I said to pay him in the first place. I thought that he had brought this franchise to places that were pretty damn impressive, and he had done things and had moments that were pretty incredible. And I think that he's shown himself on some conditions of, yeah, he's had some big games with rest and whatnot. But it's interesting that he had that last game against Detroit where he has this all-time performance, and then says the whole "I despise losing" thing, and maybe that was enough for him to say, I don't believe in this team anymore, and that wasn't the elixir enough. Maybe that was his red flag of saying, all right, this team ain't going anywhere. If we don't win that game where I do that, I'm not sticking around for this. It's possible. I don't know. But it definitely feels like since the Shams stuff has come out and the way that the Heat reacted to it has definitely changed things. It definitely feels like it has changed things. Now, was that stuff orchestrated by Jimmy and Jimmy's team? Yeah, probably. Probably there's some element to that. But I think that they knew coming into this year, they played ball. They were very professional. He's been professional. He's been a good player when he's played. And now it's at the point where things have changed. And I got the feeling like the weird thing will be about this, though, is like, for a standoff like this, like how will the Heat respond to it? I don't know. But I can't imagine, it being great for the team, but I also don't see Spo bucking at this stuff. Like, he likes conflict, and controversy and whatnot. But it's also dependent on, is Jimmy going to show up and play? So we got to keep an eye on it, man. Obviously, this is going to be an interesting day. If there's any follow-ups, we'll do a follow-up video later, but this is off the stuff breaking within the hour.